Lee Summit is your destination for big city vibes and small town charm.
Head to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market, where local meets fresh. Then grab a cup of coffee and discover a variety of shops and boutiques just around the corner. Continue the fun in downtown Lee Summit at a retro arcade bar. Discover your new beer at one of our 6 locally owned breweries. Cool off with some handcrafted cocktails at happy hour. End the night with live music and good company. Lee Summit, Missouri.
Hello, Lee Summit. Here's your flash briefing for the week of March 11th. The public is invited to the open house of Fire Station Number 5 on March 21st at 2 p.m. at 801 Southwest Layman's Lane. Receive a behind-the-scenes look at the new facility, hear from Mayor Baird and Chief Snyder, and witness the unique hose uncoupling ceremony. Light refreshments will be offered. Be sure to sign up for the city's free alert system, LS Aware. Receive emergency and non-emergency information by text, email, or phone for events such as severe weather and road closures. You choose how you want to be notified. Learn how to sign up on the city's website. Stay connected with the city. We have several email newsletters to keep you informed about everything going on in Lee Summit. The Council Debrief recaps City Council meetings. The City Portal has the latest news and information about the city, and the Flyover is your one-stop shop for airport news. You can subscribe to all of them on the city's website. And have weekend plans? Grab the family and head downtown Lee Summit to celebrate St. Patrick's Day during Shamrock the Block on March 16th from 10 a.m. to noon. Families can enjoy live performances, kids games, food trucks, candy, and more. Find more information at downtownls.org. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
Traditionally, we think as police officers, those responding to law enforcement needs within the community. But honestly, we are there to serve our citizens, and our citizens do go into crisis. They do have mental health crises, and we're being called to those scenes on a regular basis. In order to help serve those citizens better, we did initiate the Crisis Intervention Team Program. These are officers that are specially trained to de-escalate crisis situations. Recently, we've brought co-responders onto the scene, licensed qualified mental health professionals housed within our police department, and they respond with those officers directly to those scenes where a crisis is occurring so they can interact with that citizen and get them the help they need right there on that scene.
The co-responders are either a bachelor or master level in a behavioral health related field. They wear plain clothes, they don't carry weapons or anything like that.
I have a police radio that I listen to all day. Listen for, those key words: mental health, behavioral health, crisis.
There's a lot of officers that just call for me. I have my own radio number.
I also have the ability to self-dispatch to them and say 982 is en route.
Officers en route, 914, Armstrong.
So typically I arrive after they've made it safe. I'll make contact and get kind of the rundown, and then I just kind of jump right in.
I'm like, hey, my name's Allison. I'm a mental health professional. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to take you to jail or arrest you.
Sometimes all a person needs is a voice, someone neutral, someone outside that, can listen. I do a lot of safety planning, including family, their support network, who's close to you. If they're home alone, who can come over and hang out with you today? Can we lock away your sharps? Can we put up your meds? Do you need meds? Can we get you over to the urgent care to get you assessed for your medications? Some of them also are like, oh, I'm so glad you came. This made me feel so much better.
Our main goal as the co-responders is to, one, get people connected to the services that they need, and also divert from emergency rooms and jails.
And they almost get a different view of the police responding. That lets me know you care and the officers care.
Please, how can I help you?
My husband has...
In 2020, we had 722 mental health related calls for service. 2022, by that time, 1,479. These mental health related calls for service are increasing. How we're responding to that is increasing the number of crisis intervention team officers we have available, as well as the number of co-responders we have available to respond on these calls.
So what I think is important for the community to know about the co-responder program is that we're here, we exist. All you have to do when you call 911 is ask for us. Say, hey, I want a co-responder to respond to this crisis, and we'll go. I was really struggling about 8 years ago on my personal journey with mental health, and I met some amazing social workers and amazing programs that have helped me get to where I am today. I really couldn't see myself doing anything else. We want to help, and that's what we love to do.
So I had a client, we got a call, she had some suicidal ideations, and she really felt that she had nobody. And and getting to know her story and getting to know who comes around and sees you, well, then we found a support person and they responded immediately. And we made a plan. I called back and checked on her in an hour, and then I checked on her in 2 hours. We were able to get her into the additional services to where she talks to someone every week or more. I just took a person that really just thought they had nobody and nobody would show up for them, and show them you do. And you'll be amazed who is in your corner if you just simply say, I need a little help.
Member Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. Quite a few of us are getting questions. I know I've gotten a few questions about the plan, so I didn't know if, just for the public knowledge. I'm not a politician. I feel like I'm just an average person in Lee Summit. They have a football field set up. Inside these cones are their football field. Our 2-car garage is we're gonna bring the driveway back through here, and it's gonna go right here. And then, so my family has chickens. When we first got chickens, my husband said, don't treat them as your pets, treat them as chickens, because we're going to be eating the eggs, and I would like to use them for meat. So don't treat them as your pets. Well, we now have 6 chickens that I consider my pets, and I will not let him kill for meat. So we live downtown, and we love living downtown. These are my children. The first one's Lincoln, and Amira, and Sophia, and Caleb. This is a great neighborhood. Downtown is one big community, and all of the kids get together and they play basketball, and we like to walk to the farmer's market. Here, hold my hand. It's an easy walk, probably less than 10 minutes. The farmer's market has always been a very important part of my life and my family's life. As a matter of fact, when my daughter started kindergarten, I dropped her off and I was going shopping at the farmer's market right behind Lee Summit Elementary. And I was teary-eyed because she was my first and she was going off to kindergarten. And Terry, the butterfly lady, the one that's in the purple shirt, and she used to make little butterfly stickers for everyone, she gave me a big hug and was just so empathetic to the fact that my daughter had just started school. How are you guys doing? Doing well, how are you? Yeah, very good. A lot of the farmers there, they've watched my kids grow up. I love Lee Summit in general. I love that it still has a small town feel while embracing growth and the arts and diversity. And I feel like downtown specifically embodies that. My kids go to Lee Summit Elementary, and a lot of their teachers live downtown, and a lot of the business owners from downtown live downtown. So when we're out walking downtown, we see so many people we know. I lived in Africa until I was 5, and then we moved to the United States, and I've lived in Lee Summit since. A lot of my childhood, my mom was a single mom, and I feel like I was essentially raised by my community and being on council, and it's just such an important way to give back to the community that raised me.
I state your name. I, Mia Pryor. Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I possess the qualifications.
The day of April 2022. The election process was fun. I got to go door to door and talk to people, which is my absolute favorite thing to do, is talking to people and learning about people. I even had people inviting me into their house for dinner or inviting me back to their house to meet their spouse. And I knocked on a door, and the lady that answered the door was my kindergarten teacher. So it was a lot of fun. Is it on? Hi everyone, I'm Councilmember Mia Pryor. Thank you very much for coming tonight. I have one on, can you not? Okay. Maybe I went. I love being a council rep for District 1. I know everyone says this, but District 1 is by far, in my opinion, the best district. Raintree Lake, that's part of District 1. I love that community. Actually, my husband and I got married at the clubhouse in Raintree Lake. I really love all of South Lee Summit. I love the growth that they're going to be experiencing soon and that they've already experienced. I wanted to say that if you guys have a concern, please come tell us what your concern is, because we can only address and help with what we know. We're there to kind of bridge that gap between constituents in the city, and we're the voice of our constituents, and we can go to the city and voice what their concerns are, what their ideas are. So if you have a concern, definitely make us aware. So my big priorities are public safety. That's always one of my top priorities. I've always wanted to make sure that first responders were supported. I think that that's super important to me and to many in our city. But also, I wanted to influence the growth in Lee Summit. I wanted to influence the type of businesses we get here and the type of activities there are to do for our families. If we're going to continue to grow downtown, how important it is to focus on people that already live here and the infrastructure we already have in place.
Our first presentation tonight is going to be Assistant City Manager Ryan Elam, who is going to talk about that very exciting Farmers Market Plaza.
But I want to show you the most recent rendering, fly-through video of that. That's really the best way to kind of get a good sense of what this will look like in the near future.
To see it developing into something as big as it's going to be across from City Hall is super exciting to me. I can't wait for it to get built and to start welcoming people into what the farmers market's going to be, but also everything else that goes along with that development.
Okay. You want to hold it?
Don't drop it.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Have a good rest.
I'm just an average person in Lee Summit that wanted to be a voice of many that sometimes feel like they don't have a voice. Yeah, I'm not a politician. I'm just a mom that cares.
Good afternoon. I would like to call this meeting of the Community and Economic Development Committee to order. Could I have a roll call, please?
Chair Edson?
Here.
Vice Chair Pryor?
Here.
Councilmember Hodges? Councilmember Felker?
Here.
Planning Commissioner Arth?
Thank you. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Chair.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember Felker and a second by Councilmember Pryor to approve the agenda. Could I have is there a discussion? Could I have a roll call, please?
Vice Chair Pryor?
Aye.
Councilmember Felker?
Here. Aye.
Chair Edson?
Aye. Thank you very much. Are there any public comments before we begin the meeting? No. And I note, Ms. Pryor, that you had placed an email, a copy of a public comment from Mr. Dale Coy on the dais. Would you please make sure that that's entered into the action letter? All right. All right, now we'll move on to the first order of business, approval of the February 14th action letter.
Chair.
Yes.
I move to approve the February 14th action letter.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember Pryor to approve the action letter and a second by Councilmember Felker. Any discussion? Seeing none, could I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Felker?
Aye.
Chair Edson?
Aye.
Vice Chair Pryor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We are now going to start the public hearing on the Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan. Mr. Elam, before I start that, did you want to describe the process and kind of set the table for us, or do you want me to go ahead and open up the public hearing?
Turn that over to Amy and Sarah if they wanted to process and then open the public hearing a little bit. It's actually probably part of the presentation during the public hearing as well. So I think we could open the public hearing and move forward.
Okay. Yeah, I thought so from the slides. All right, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. I will now close the regular session and open the public hearing on the Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan for program year 2024 to 25. Would all those interested in speaking to this matter please rise and be sworn in by the city clerk? Thank you. Does the applicant have a presentation, please?
Move this up here. Okay, can you hear me on this? Okay, good evening. I am Sarah Tilbury, and I am the CDBG Administrator for the City of Lee Summit. And tonight we are here to discuss our annual action plan for fiscal year 2024. So an intro to CDBG. Lee Summit is an entitlement community, and with that designation, we do receive an annual allocation of funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development each year. With this CDBG funding, we are required to meet one of three national objectives, being to benefit low to moderate income persons, address slum or blight, or to respond to an urgent community need, such as a disaster response. With the CDBG plans, we are required to develop and maintain several plans. The first plan is our consolidated plan. That is our 5-year strategic plan. This plan identifies the community needs, how we prioritize those needs, and then we detail strategies of how to address those needs. That plan was adopted back in December of 2019. The next plan we do is our citizen participation plan. This is just a plan that sets forth our policies and procedures in order to run the program. It also encourages public participation throughout the planning preparation. Revisions are made to that on an as-needed basis. That was also adopted in December of 2019 and then amended and adopted again in June of 2020 with COVID funding. And then the reason we're here tonight is our annual action plan. And that is our more detailed plan. It has specific projects, programs, activities, and then a budget for each of those projects. This is currently the 5th year of our strategic plan. So we'll be starting a new one soon. So with our action plan, we must identify our goals and objectives and then how they link directly back to our con plan goals. We identify specific programs and projects that will be carried out within the community. And then we also set a budget for how these programs and projects will be funded. And then we measure the outcome and the accomplishments on each of those programs and projects. So a timeline of the action plan process. We opened the funding applications back in January. Those were available online for about a month. Once those applications were all submitted, we had a staff review of those. And I will say we also held a pre-application meeting around the second week of January. All the applicants did attend that meeting, and we just discussed the current process and funding that we have. Once we reviewed all the applications, we evaluated and prioritized those, and we came up with our funding recommendation, which we will present later tonight. Tonight is the start of our public hearing, which will be open for 30 days. Once that public comment period has closed, we will take any comments we receive and add those into the action plan, and then take this to council for adoption. Hopefully in May. It depends on when we get our HUD funding, but we hope to submit it in our program year will start July 1st. So with the applications, the applicants were evaluated on the completeness of their application, the eligibility of both their agencies, their program, and their beneficiaries, if they were meeting a need or needs within our consolidated plan, and then the agency's capacity to carry out the activity and remain in full compliance with both federal regulations and city standards, just to keep us out of any audit concerns. We also have to take into effect our funding caps. So admin is capped at 20%, public service at 15%, and then at least 70% of our allocation must be used to benefit low to moderate income persons. We looked at the existing services that have been provided and if there were any new services, the urgency, if anything was not funded, and then lastly, we looked at the agency's past history of performance and any compliance risk that the agency or program might have. So this is the recent grant levels. For fiscal year 2024, they have not been announced yet, and even on HUD's website, 2023 hasn't even been updated. So last year we received $354,909. That is what we are currently basing our allocations on. We got an email today that HUD did pass a budget today, so now they have 60 days to allocate funding to us. So hopefully we get it sooner than 60 days, but that is as of today. So right now we're going off of last year's amount. So looking back at 2023, this is through the second quarter. We awarded $53,236 to our 4 public service agencies. To date, this has benefited 1,137 Lee Summit residents. On the construction side of the program, we have awarded $318,225. With that, Lee Summit Housing Authority did complete phase 3 of the exterior remodel at Duncan Estates. That benefited 6 low to moderate income households. And then Truman Habitat has continued their home preservation program. They have completed 12 households in Lee Summit, and that has included siding repair, tree removal, roof repairs, foundation, HVAC replacements, some driveways, some I think electrical situations. They're doing all kinds of repairs. So next, each applicant will present their program and project. Once each agency has come forward and presented, we will present our funding recommendation. With that, we will then open the floor for discussion, and then we will decide on a recommendation for council approval. So I will start with the City of Lee Summit, our program administration. This year, we are not requesting any money. We will continue to use the general fund as we did last year. We'd like to keep the money within the community, so we will not be seeking any planning funding. So with that, we will start with our public service agencies. Do you have any questions right now, or do you want to?
No, I'm just going to tell the committee members, since we have so many groups to listen to, if after each individual presentation, if you want to ask questions on that one, let's do that so we don't have to go back. But we can go back later if you want. Yes, Councilmember Felker.
I think I've asked this question before, but how typical is it for a city not to request an administration fee?
I don't think it was very typical. I think we were one of the few that were requesting funding. I don't think Blue Springs requests any. I'd have to check on others, but most cities did not request funding for their own admin.
Historically, have we done it? We've requested it in the past.
Yes.
And so this year we're just not.
Yes, so we had requested it in the past up until last year, and last year we.
Yeah, okay.
And last
I
year,
don't remember that.
Yeah, that was CEDC that made that decision and took it to council. Okay.
That to the agencies instead.
And staff. Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you.
All right, let's go.
Okay, Monica. I think you can use this or hit enter.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present our presentation, our application, and just wanted to share a little bit of information with you about our program. So we are requesting funding for 32 of the 250 kids that we will, do I need to introduce who I am?
Great, Monica.
Okay, I think they always tell me that after I start. I'm Monica Humbard. I'm Executive Director of Coldwater of Lee Summit. We will fund up to 258 kids for our program for back snacks and weekend food packs, which is a program that provides food for kids for the weekend. And so we are requesting funding for 32 of those children. And it goes to 4 to 6 Lee Summit elementaries, depending on the school year, and 1 Lee Summit Middle School, Summit Ridge Academy, we help them, the Great Beginnings Early Education Center, the Lee Summit School District Head Start Schools, and the Early Head Start Schools. So we have children in all those schools that we help with that program. So Harvesters has already identified over 600 kids in our community who are in need of this, and this is based on the free and reduced lunch program, and those numbers go into that factor, figuring out how many kids in our community are in need, are considered chronically hungry. And interestingly, when I provided these slides, as of February, 125 kids were chronically hungry in just our preschool program alone, and that's where we've seen the greatest growth in the last few years. In January, that number was 107, and now it's 126 as of this week. So it just continues to grow, and for obvious reasons with the economy the way it is, and families struggling so much. I know in just our food pantry alone, we've seen a 40% increase in 2023 of families in need. So we just continue to see that growing. And so we, so going on to the next one. So why do we do this program? Basically why we do this is because of these children and their development in many different areas. They've found that the kids that are not getting enough food to eat, their grades suffer. So with providing a program such as this, they tend to improve as much as 18%. The students that they've had 14% fewer absences and 23% fewer tardies when they receive food for the weekend. 34% of the parents say their children's health improved. 33% say their self-esteem has improved. The schools report discipline issues for the back-snack kids go down when they have this extra food. Teachers see significant improvement in social skills, responsibility, participation, and behavior. So many different aspects, not just the physical health of these kids, but many different things that will affect their actual success in school. And I thought it was interesting that I've been looking into some things as we begin to talk more and more about mental health. They've done a lot more studies since the pandemic and some of the things that had happened during that time. And so they found that when they've looked into the link between food insecurity and psychological distress in younger populations, including young adults and adolescents, analysis demonstrated that young adults who reported food insecurity had greater odds of mental health problems, including depression and anxiety or panic disorder. They further found that food insecurity was associated with poor sleep outcomes, including trouble falling asleep and staying asleep. And when examining how experiences of food insecurity during childhood influence psychological distress experienced later in life, it was discovered that young adults who reported experiencing food insecurity during childhood also reported greater psychological distress in adulthood. So not only is this affecting them through their education years, but as could affect them even into their adulthood. So we're seeing they're seeing a lot more effect in things like anxiety, depression, that type of thing that these kids are experiencing as a result of food insecurity. And Feeding America reports that roaring stomachs cause children to be cranky, hyperactive, and aggressive. These behavioral issues can distract kids from schoolwork, leading to developmental delays and learning disabilities. And 50% of children facing hunger will need to repeat a grade. So a lot of interesting statistics that really say we've got to concentrate on these kids and make sure that they're getting adequate food. So that's what Coldwater's trying to do. So, do you have any questions I can answer for you?
Thank you. Just a moment. Councilmember Felker.
Did you say 50% of those dealing with hunger may have a higher risk of repeating a grade?
Repeating a grade, yeah.
Thank you.
Councilmember Pryor, did you have any questions at this point? All right. Thank you.
Very
You're
much.
off the hook now.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay. Have Brandy with Hope House.
Good evening. My name is Brandy Bear. I am with Hope House. I'm the Director of Grants and Compliance. And today we are asking for funding to support our court advocacy program, most specifically our court advocate that is Lee Summit based and works directly with the Lee Summit Police Department. So just as a broad overview, the court advocacy program really focuses on keeping survivors of domestic violence, both the adult survivor and their children, safe, and while also making sure that offenders are held accountable for the crimes that they are committing. The Lee Summit-based advocate will provide crisis intervention, court accompaniment to the Lee Summit Municipal Court, as well as order protection court that's held in Independence. Individual advocacy resources and referrals to not only Hope House's programs, but other community programs as well. The main focus of this is partnering with the Lee Summit Police Department, which we have done for, I think, over 20 years now, to make sure that there is a coordinated response within the city. With this particular funding, we anticipate that about 100 residents of Lee Summit will be directly impacted by these services with about 90 hours of service. Threw in some stats just because I'm a stats person, but so this is kind of the overall program that we did last year. Specifically when it comes to Lee Summit, this is kind of where it comes into here. So the total number of survivors served that said they were residing in Lee Summit at the time of coming into services was 244 clients. So there'll be just under half will be served with CDBG funds. One of the major elements of our program is the lethality assessment program. So it's a standardized form that officers use at the time that they respond to an incident of violence. It is 11 questions, and that is there to help assess how lethal a situation may become. So it's a pretty direct form of questions, and that gives the officers a tool to directly state to that person that persons in the same situation have been harmed or have been killed. And it allows them to directly at that time connect them to Hope House. We are currently doing this with 10 cities, including Jackson County Sheriff's Department. So in 2023, just for Lee Summit, over 300 survivors were assessed. 77% of those screened as high lethality. That was actually an increase from 2022. So we're seeing higher severity of incidents within Lee Summit, especially those involving weapons. And so this program really helps connect survivors immediately to services. In 2023, these were kind of the outcomes that we saw across the program. The vast majority of our clients are increasing their safety with safety plans, orders of protection. They're able to, we have security equipment, so we're able to supply clients with extra door locks, ring door cameras, video cameras, floodlights, door jams, window jams, pepper spray, those sorts of things are all available to them. We're able to connect them directly with other community resources. They're understanding their role in the court process and how to contact us if they need us in the future. Just kind of one story that really, I guess, impacted us throughout last year. There was a client that contacted Lee Summit Police Department for support. They were immediately connected with Hope House at the time that an incident occurred, and they agreed to come into shelter. So that client entered shelter with their children, with the assistance of our shelter advocates, case managers, therapists, and the court advocate that was from Lee Summit. They were able to safety plan, get resources, talk her through the process of court, go with her to court, connect her with the prosecuting attorney. That client was then accepted into our transitional housing program. They have since moved into a new residence without the abusive partner, and then she continues to work with the court advocate as her case is going through Lee Summit Municipal Court. Whoops. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Unless you want to do their presentation too. I'm sure they won't. Yeah. So, your court advocate position, so is this an additional position, or is this to help fund the position you have?
It's to help fund the position we have. So we currently have a full-time court advocate. They actually have an office within the Lee Summit Police Department, so they are there if there are walk-ins or if something happens, they can immediately respond with an officer or with the detective to a scene.
So is that totally funded by Hope House, or is it split between?
We take care of the salary and benefits for the court advocate is through Hope House.
Okay. All right. Councilmember Felker.
So then sorry, help me understand then, what does the $20,000 go to? I mean, we're not supporting the person, we're supporting the program around?
No, it is this specific advocate position.
Okay. So when you say Hope House supports, this is going to be part of that?
Correct.
Salary benefits, got it.
Yeah, it's part of the, so there's an overall court advocacy program that has 6 court advocates. One of those positions is specifically based within Lee Summit, and so this funding would directly benefit that person, that salary, the time spent with Lee Summit Police Department.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Up next we have Hillcrest, which Luann is here.
Oh, good evening. Thank you for giving us this opportunity once again to be with you. Is it the arrows up and down? Oh, or the mouse, okay. So we are asking for dollars from CDBG to again support our 90-day transitional housing program here in Lee Summit. This slide shows some total Hillcrest stats from last year. So last year we served over 940 households and 1,700 individuals Hillcrest-wide. And wanted to share this story about Jason, who went through our program here in Lee Summit. came out of the court system on probation, parole, and there was no way he was going to find anybody to rent to him at that point in time. Came to us and went through our 90-day program. During that time was gifted back visitation with his son, and now 9 months later he has custody. He's been reunified with his son, is working full-time, and has been in his own rental unit since. And he actually spoke at our gala this year, and it was pretty incredible story, so I just wanted to share a little bit of that. So really what we do is we provide transitional housing units at no cost, no rent, no utilities, for families, singles, and individuals. We take families the way they present to us, and they are able to stay with us in that unit for 90 days. We have 16 here in Lee Summit. We provide case management services. We provide a full pantry that includes food and toiletries. And we also have a resident needs budget that we use to provide most all of their needs while they're with us. So for instance, one of our requirements is that all adults are working full-time. If that means you need car repair, if you need a tank of gas, if you need shoes for work, then we're going to help you do that so you can get over that hump and continue getting to your job every day. We also require that folks attend life skills classes. We use professionals and volunteers from this generous community to come talk about everything from nutrition to landlord-tenant law. We even have a sweet volunteer that comes and brings knitting needles and yarn and teaches us how to knit, which is fabulous. It's a good stress reliever, I hear. It doesn't work for me. We also talk a lot about housing on day one, what their housing options are after they complete our program and now become what we're going to call alumni. We require that they live on an all needs and no wants budget, which means they sit down with a volunteer or a staff member on a weekly basis. They present what their income is, what their expenses are, what their expenses were for the week. And that staff member or volunteer is an advocate beside them and walking them through that process so they learn more about how to live within means. And as you know, it's just getting harder and harder. Monica addressed that in what she shared about, the cost of food increasing. This community is a fantastic place to do this kind of work. We have great partnerships with the school district and all the other entities in the city. This last calendar year here at the Lee Summit location, we served 44 households, which was 63 individuals. Most of those were single moms with kiddos. And we graduated 77% of those families, which were 34 households, into self-sufficiency. And what we call self-sufficiency in our terms is that they're living in a place of their choosing. Maybe they reunited with a family member or repaired some bridges, and or that it's not a plan B. They're staying where they want to and can afford their own place, and that they're working and their kids are remaining in school. Why we do what we do, I will tell you, my heart and passion is if we help one family become stable, especially if that family has children, then that we've changed the lives of that child as well. The effects of homelessness are devastating. It can end in death. It is not good for your health, for access to other health care resources. Of course, there's going to cause depression, anxiety, and put you in harm's way for being abused, mistreated, or led into criminal activity. And so your gift is going to help at least 39 families have safe, stable housing on our campus here in Lee Summit. We're going to work with them to ensure that they move directly from homelessness or an emergency shelter into their own home, and that we work to break the cycle of poverty. Last calendar year, our residents paid off over $36,000 in old debt. 87% of that was old utilities that were in their name, and so putting that back into the economy. We also provide, again, all those other things they may need to keep them going to work and continue to provide stability. This year, I'm proud to share that we have added an additional case manager on staff that is working with our alumni. And so even if you've been graduated from the Hillcrest program for 6 weeks or 5 years, you can come back and connect with that individual, get additional services and resource. And we're also creating a alumni committee or task force to help us grow and improve our programs as well. So thank you. And this is a fabulous community again to do this work in. You guys, we're just honored to be here.
Thank you. 90 days. You do a lot in 90 days.
About the families we serve do.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are working hard.
I wish I had heard Jason's story. I just saw what you had on the presentation.
So on our website is the video. So if you go to hillcrestkc.org, it's posted. So yeah, and there's 2 other beautiful stories as well. So
all
give it
right,
a look.
thank you. Councilmember Falco, did you have any questions?
No.
Councilmember Pryor? No? I think we're good. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Salerno, the Executive Director at Lee Summit Social Services. First of all, I want to thank everyone here, the CDBG team, Sarah, Amy, your responsiveness, your diligence, and your support are unmatched, so thank you very, very much. So thank you for having me here today. Lee Summit Social Services was established in 1992. We help those in need in the Lee Summit Social Services service area with emergency needs, while helping them and enabling them to maintain their dignity and learn to set and meet realistic goals that will lead to greater independence. We empower individuals and families through essential support via rent, utility assistance, food assistance, personal hygiene, baby care items, prescriptions, our back to school program and Christmas program. In 2023, the amount of utility assistance given alone was over $223,000. Our total amount of giving in 2023 was nearly $1.5 million, and that includes over $19,000 in services provided to 2,593 individuals in our service area. With the CDBG funds, it allows us to keep our lights on and our agency running so that we can continue to help anyone who walks through our doors.
Thank you. Are there any questions? We wore ourselves out early on.
That's all right. I'll take it.
All right, thank you.
Okay. And now we will move into the construction and other category. So I have Lisa with Lee Summit Housing Authority to present theirs.
Good evening, excuse me. Good evening, everybody. I am Lisa Dickerson. I'm the new Executive Director of the Lee Summit Housing Authority, and some of you know I'm new to this area, this city, this state, from Georgia. So I'm here to request funding. I hope I do this right, so bear with me, okay? I'm here to request funding for our Duncan Estates. I'm requesting this, give me a moment. This is my first time presenting, and I am a little nervous.
I know, this is a scary group. I can see why you'd be nervous.
Well, there's one person out there that's a friendly face, so, but I'm still scared of him today. So the Housing Authority provides both public housing and Section 8, where the families pay 30% of their income for rent. Duncan Estates has about 66 units, and that is what we're requesting for. That is a senior elderly development for people over 62 years of age or disabled. The money has been used to do the siding trim, to replace the existing doors and the front doors, which makes it more safe with the 6-panel steel doors that have been put on it. So far, for phase 1 and phase 2, and let me stop and say this, because I am new here to this area. I'm new to this housing authority. And I will say that I understand that there have been issues and challenges and delays due to the gap in leadership and transition, due to the new leadership and transition. I think they have been without an executive director since last June. So therefore, there was a gap. There was a lot of delays. So we are quickly working with the city. Amy has been wonderful so have the city manager, been very wonderful and gracious in assisting in me and finding the history. Eric Berg has, even sent things. But I want to let you know that we are working very quickly in resolving these issues and these delays, and we hope to have them all resolved before the end of next week. Most have already been resolved. But I wanted to say that through phase 1, phase 1 and 2, we did about 20 units. In phase 3, we did about 8 units. Phase 4 have yet to begin because of the delay. However, we're hoping that we can start that or get everything worked out, that we can start that this spring, summer, or fall and get that underway. We have, at every resident meeting with the elderly in both Duncan and Lee Haven, but Duncan, we have people sitting at these luncheons and they're asking, my neighbor got her siding, she got her door, are you gonna do ours? So it is our goal, hopefully with the funding that we are requesting from the city, along with leverage and with our CAP funds, that we can continue. Once we get phase 4 and phase 5 completed, we will have done 3/4, over a quarter of all the units, because that would be like 58 units totally that would have been completed. We're asking for $250,000 for the CDBG grant. We want to leverage it with $50,000 of our CAP funds. $50,000 of our CAP funds to do 10 units at an average cost. And I did the 5% that was done last year to get that's the 5% with cost. And that roughly brings it to about $56,595 per unit. Our goal is to play catch up. We are working a year behind. I have no doubt that we would get this done. I have no doubt that whatever delays, whatever deficiencies, or whatever that's missing, I'm confident it's going to be resolved in the next, if not this week, definitely by end of next week. I'm also confident that we can, although we are several months behind, I'm very confident that we can do what we need to do with phase 4 and have phase 5 to begin on time in the spring of 2025. Also, in addition to that, I asked the council that they give me a chance to show what I can do. I have over 33 plus years experience in all aspects of affordable housing throughout the United States, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. So thank you if there's any questions.
Councilmember Felker, did you have any questions?
Hey, you want me to do, did I slip back right? We haven't begun yet. Yes. Yes. Correct. With the goal to make sure we stay on task. Based on my notes and count, 66. And we've done, through phase 3, appears to be 38. So with phase 4 would be 10 units, and phase 5 would be another 10 units.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask staff this question because you may be new enough that you don't know. But if you know, you're welcome to answer the question. Because last year for phase 4, we actually increased the amount of money we gave to the Housing Authority.
I was told that by both Travis and Eric Burke had told me that you did get an increase.
Yeah. Does anybody remember how much that was? Was that $75,000 or?
$173,000.
Was that the increase or the total?
That was the total. It was 110 previously, the year before.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, I think you're good. See, that wasn't so bad.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
Okay, and last we have Mary Kate with Truman Habitat with the Home Preservation Program.
Hi, I'm Mary Kate Sears. I am the Home Preservation Program Manager. So with the City of Lee Summit, with CDBG funds, we've been able to really create a relationship and a partnership, not only with the city, but with y'all citizens as well. So with our home preservation program, we are seeking to continue that partnership to help with low, moderate income homeowners and their home repairs, anywhere from minor to critical. And we started this partnership officially in 2019 with work started around 2020. So within that time, we've helped over 40 Lee Summit homeowners. And with this next ask, we're hoping to help even more. Some of the critical repairs and minor repairs that we look at are hazard electrical, kind of like Sarah mentioned before. You'll notice the pictures on the bottom. That's a before and after. Great experience with this family. These homeowners, we went in originally for some other home repairs. Our project manager, Herb, I'm gonna give him a shout out. He looks at everything when he goes through those homes, and that ended up being conversation. Turns out that that electrical box was incredibly unsafe. When it was removed to install the new one, it was burned up on the inside. It was a fire risk. There were tears from lots of people around, but we were able to help them out. So it's great stories like that. Not only electrical remediation, plumber and sewer failure with the crazy cold that we had this past season. Plumbing failed for a lot of people, probably some in this room, but for low to moderate income homeowners, it's a lot harder to take care of those. HVAC replacement, radon mitigation, which is something that is pretty prevalent in Lee Summit, and so that's something that shows up on almost every project that we encounter, as well as foundation repair, water diversion, hazardous tree removal has also become a huge concern in this area. And with our homeowners, the cost of that service has also gone up significantly. So that has been an issue of trying to meet all of the minor needs as well as that big need of getting those hazardous trees removed, as well as weatherization and code violations. So another home that we've got at a pretty prevalent corner in Lee Summit. You might have seen this lovely yellow-orange house before. So painting it was a big concern for that homeowner. For some, we might think, maybe painting's not a big deal, but it totally changed her whole attitude on her home. Our whole goal with this program is to keep people in their homes. Aging population is the biggest generation that we have right now, and it's growing every year. So we look at all of our projects through a lens of helping that homeowner stay in their home. The big thing with Habitat as well, not only with our home preservation, but with all of our services, is we are looking for a hand up, not a hand out. So although this program is not at a cost to the homeowner, they're not completely off the hook to let us just go in and do the work. We focus on sweat equity, which gets the homeowner involved in the process. Like I said before, a lot of our homeowners are aging, so they might not physically be able to do some of the repairs or some of the yard work that they're asking for, but there's other ways that we get them involved in the process. Preparing the home, we love to have our restore trucks come through if people are looking to get rid of furniture, old home items that they're not using anymore. So preparing a space, volunteering with our construction crew in the office or with our restores, as well as donating household items. We have workshops that homeowners are able to participate in as well, which could be anywhere from basic home electrical, plumbing, basic home things that you want to know how to do without having to call a contractor to come in and pay that extra cost. So we invite them to participate in that, as well as having a yard sign. Great homeowner that we've had downtown Lee Summit. We had our Women's Hard Hat Society come out and paint her house, prep it, paint it, and she now volunteers in one of our restores, and she's been a great asset to the program. Another opportunity is to share testimonials, recordings, pictures, sound bites, anything like that, so that we can share our influence on the community and keep the mission going.
Thank you. You got to be careful about talking about the aging population. You might offend Councilmember Falco. Or others, I don't know.
I didn't name any names, I didn't point at anybody.
Or others on the dais.
Or others on the dais. You talked a little bit about your website, but how do people find your program?
Yeah, so they can call us directly. A lot of the times people know the name Habitat, so they can look around. Sometimes we get those calls that they end up being in Habitat Kansas City rather than in our service area. We talked to Sarah and got a flyer sent out in the water bill as well, so that we can reach your customers and they can see the program and some basic information to see if they might qualify. We've got our website up and running, so they can go to the form on there or reach out to me directly. We've also talked about putting flyers in some of the thrift stores around. I've wanted to contact the school district as well to get in contact, or to reach out to their school counselors, because they're going to know families that are going to need support too. So we're talking to more people. That's going to be part of the process, since we're asking for more of a contribution from CDBG this year, but these home repairs are becoming significantly more expensive. So we're going to have to be able to do more, we're going to need more per project.
And this is income-based, right? They have to
Correct.
qualify?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Councilmember Pryor?
Thank you. So what do you guys consider low to moderate income levels?
That's 80% AMI or below.
What is that number? Do you know?
It depends on the household size. So those are numbers that are put out by HUD every year, and they get updated in the spring. So off the top of my head, for a household of one, it's less than $57,000 a year.
Okay. And then do we, as a city, are we able to put information out about all of this, just so everyone's able to?
Yes, so we put the program in our water bill, and then it's also on our website right now, and we've put flyers at social services. There's flyers in the lobby right now. We've put flyers at the libraries, and I think that's all for right now. But yes, we are working to we've gone through the neighborhoods in downtown Lee Summit and just put flyers on the doors. We're really trying to get the program out there. And I know even for this upcoming program year, they already have, I think, 8 applications already in process, which is much quicker than we have in the past. I think the word is definitely getting out.
Okay. Have we done any social media, anything?
Not yet. We're kind of waiting on the social media, just because it is income-based. We've done that before, and we get way too many people that don't qualify, or they start asking a lot of questions, and it just kind of causes. But if we do need to put it out there, we can. But right now, we're kind of not there yet.
Okay.
Yeah, just for a little context, last time we did a social media campaign on that, I think we ended up with over 95 applications that didn't qualify. So it was a significant effort to go through all those applications and the process and everything as well. So.
About how many applications do you guys do every year?
In the past, we try to do anywhere between 10 and 12 per program year. This year, we're at 11 projects that we'll be able to do. Like I said, some of those projects are costing more than we planned, so we can't reach as many. I would say on average, I get at least 4 calls a week with interest. We've developed a new way to kind of help with that overwhelming amount of applications all at once. We have an intake form, so I'm able to talk to homeowners and in a quick 5-minute conversation, give them an idea if they might qualify or not, and then we can go on to the next steps.
So does the Lee Summit money, does it stay just in Lee Summit? It's only for the
Correct.
Lee Summit applicants
Yes.
and families? Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Felker?
I'm just going to go back to Councilmember Pryor's question about how you measuring area median income.
Correct,
And is
yes.
that Kansas City wide? What's the?
It is based on Kansas City, yes.
Do you know that number, what it is right now? What the area income is?
So it's based on a household size of 4. I believe it's like $104,000 for a household of 4, and so then it's 80% of that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Okay, so now we are at our funding recommendation. So this is based on last year's. It could change, it probably will change, but we will adjust that once we get our allocation. How do I make this? Can everybody see that? Big enough for everybody? Can we all see this? Okay, so for this funding year, as I stated previously, this has the new update. Okay, so as I stated, for the planning and administration, we are recommending $0. For the public services, they are pretty consistent with last year's funding. These are each at 69% of their request. So each of those public service programs can continue running and benefiting the citizens in our community. For the construction programs, for this year, we are recommending all funding to go to home preservation with Truman Habitat. We're just looking at taking a pause with Housing Authority for right now, just to kind of let them get caught up. And yeah, so any questions?
So would you explain, because I don't remember who else has been part of this process before, that the money in public services has to stay in public services.
Yes.
The money in construction has to stay there, but if committee members want to adjust amounts in those two categories, they can do that.
Yes, we can adjust within the public services in that 15%, and then we can move money within the other as well. So like last year, we moved the administration money down to construction.
Thank you. Just let us look at this for a second.
Just one point of clarification.
Yeah.
The 15% cap is a cap that's set by HUD. So that's a maximum dollar amount that can be spent on public services. The other category could go up to 100% of the funding, which would just take away from the cap. But what you can't do is you can't add above that 15% cap on there. If you wanted to have the whole allocation go to the other category, that would be okay.
Okay. Oh, could you move the slide back over so we can see the left-hand side of it?
Or is there a way to make
Councilmember Felker.
I'm still thinking.
Oh, okay, okay.
But
All right.
I'll go anyway. So I guess my first question is actually going to be for the Housing Authority, if I could ask some questions of Ms.
Up to
Dickerson.
the microphone.
Dickerson. So we're looking here right now at not giving you any funding. That's the recommendation. And we already have approved the phase 4. What's the timing on when do we think that's going to be initiated, completed, and then that request for reimbursement to happen?
I put it out to start the fall, but if we can get everything resolved and the contract signed, we can start as early as summer, and reimbursement, if the timetable is right and what I'm speaking and hearing, then, we would be able to do the reimbursement by December or January. My thing is, all this has happened prior to me. Everything that I'm doing and submitting is something that should have been done a year ago, long before I was even a thought. So I walked in to find that a year worth of the work stopped in March of 2023. And that's all I've been working on. And I'm not here, the moment I told the board that I accept the position in October, anything that's going on with this agency became my responsibility. This is not the first agency as a former HUD employee. This is not the first agency or anything I've had to turn around. I understand. I'm talking off the top of my head just in talking to Travis and the contractors that we have in place. That's the timetable I can give you. What I can assure you, how do I feel right now? I feel like, it's not, we're being awarded zero monies based on someone that doesn't even work at the agency anymore. So that stings, just being honest. However, whatever needs to be done, whether you give us funds or not, I'm going to do what I know to do, what I have 33 years of doing, and that's turning things around and fixing it. And I'm sorry if we don't get any money. I'm hoping we do. But I promise you this, I will go find, I'm good at finding money. I will find some money because I have elderly people that want and need these services.
Just for clarity, and maybe for my fellow committee members, there's two names you've shared. One is Eric, so that's Eric Berg, who's your predecessor, and then Travis.
Travis is our interior
architect.
Yes.
Okay.
So
not
he's
employed by the Housing Authority. He's
outside. He's our architect for the project. He's been trying to push phase 4. I did let him know that, what's going on, that I'm trying to produce and fix what wasn't done in 2023. I'm going to get it done. I've got most of all of it done. I'm meeting with Amy again tomorrow. It's just, we just have one little snag that we're going to have a conference call with somebody tomorrow, but it's going to get done. And as soon as that's done, I'm hoping that we can go ahead and sign the contract for phase 4 and get the project started.
And phase 4 was initially slated to occur. Do you know when it was initially slated to occur?
I think it was slated to occur like summer or fall of 2023. Am I correct?
Should have, it should have began July 2023.
So yeah, we're like some of our other grants, we are a year behind, and so we're gonna do whatever we can to do to catch up and be on task.
Go ahead.
Excuse me.
Please.
I would say as soon as we can get a contract signed for phase 4, it's going to take about 15 to 18 months historically to get the project finished.
And that includes the reimbursement. That wraps everything up?
It should, yes, it should.
And Ms. Dickerson, you did mention, if there were no funds today, that you would explore other means. Does that mean that you would still try to find a way to do phase 5 within some time frame, or?
I won't call it phase 5, but I do have an aging building at Lee Haven. I have an aging building at Duncan. And to sit and say, okay, we didn't get money, so we're just gonna let it go, that's less than a leadership in me. So I'm gonna, even if we got the money, I never leave money on the table, first of all. And I'm always, wherever agency I'm at, whatever property I'm at, I'm always looking for money, partnerships to better the community. The residents are the reason I have a job, so it's not fair to them. Well, we didn't get that money, we're just gonna let it go. So I'm gonna always be looking for money. Even if you give me money, I'm gonna always be looking for other means of money, because I have a building at Lee Haven that's as old as I am, 60 years old, so.
And that, you're talking about the principal building, or you're talking about the residences?
Where the residents live, yeah.
Okay. Meaning there's needs there that you want to address as well?
Yes, there's needs in both buildings that need to be addressed, and they got to be addressed with or without. I don't know, Councilman, if you went to buy groceries and the store said they weren't going to sell you groceries, you're just going to let your family starve, or you're going to find some other groceries?
Find a way.
Exactly.
Find a way. Okay. I may have more questions, but I think that's all I have now. Chair?
Hang on. Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you. For one, I just wanted to thank you. I know you stepped into a mess, and I know that I really feel like you're going to do a good job just from meeting you here tonight. So thank you for doing that. But so I guess my question is that I'm a little bit confused. So if they haven't started on phase 4 yet, and we already funded phase 4, and it's going to take a while, so even if we don't necessarily allocate funds, they wouldn't, and we allocated funds then next year, it's not really going to affect much because they're behind? Or do they start phase 5 in addition, like can they start phase 5 before phase 4 is done?
No, they wouldn't start phase 5 until phase 4 was completed.
So even
that's
if,
why right now phase 4 hasn't been signed, because phase 3 hasn't been completed. I mean, the work is completed, but the paperwork isn't completed.
Okay,
it
so
hasn't been reimbursed.
if we didn't fund phase 5 yet, or if we didn't allocate funds right now that were gonna go towards phase 5, and then we allocated funds next year, it's not going to affect much, or how does that work? I mean, I guess I'm confused on how
We
that.
have a timeliness test that we need to spend the money in a certain amount of time. So as we get farther and farther behind, it really jeopardizes our award because we're not spending the money on a timely basis.
So do they still get the money, even though it's
If we
behind?
awarded it, yes.
Okay.
They would get phase
They
5.
still get the phase 4 money though, even though it's starting?
Correct.
Okay,
So they would still get phase 4 once we sign the contract. So right now,
Okay.
there's no contract in place right now for phase 4 since phase 3 wasn't completed.
so phase 5 isn't going to start until at least next year, 15 to 18 months?
That's what they are saying. I can't speak on that because I've just gotten here and I haven't had a chance to look at, I'm not even for sure, even the contractors we have, are they working at the rate they should be working? Is the timeline the way it should be? I haven't had time to review any of all that because in my experience, it's been a lot different everywhere else. So that is what the city is saying, and I'm not disagreeing with them. But in my mind, I've been looking over things as I was preparing and doing the submission and corrections, and I'm looking at everything, and there's some things that maybe don't feel right with me. I just haven't had time to really delve into it because the timeline sure sounds a lot to do siding and doors and windows.
But considering phase 3 just got done, it might be accurate.
Well, phase 3 was not under Lisa Dickerson's leadership either.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so when do you think you would start phase 5?
As I said, what I looked at, I just don't know why it took so long. I don't think, and I'm not trying to knock predecessors, but as I'm looking at the paperwork and I'm looking at what was done, so I don't want to put myself in a corner, but when I'm looking at what was done, and I'm like, what was really going on here? And that's all I will say and can say. What was really going on? Why, who was watching this? Who was overseeing this? Who's pushing this?
Okay.
So I'm not here to make any promises I can't keep because I don't have all the facts. And they know, Amy and Sarah know better than I do. But I do know as I'm walking in, trying to recreate and find all the documentation to do a submission that should have been submitted last year prior to me being thought of, and I'm going through this and I'm looking at the backup documentation. I'm like, I don't understand. There's a lot of things I don't understand. I understand what they're saying the cost of the building is per building. I mean, I have flags all over, and this is just my personal stuff, as an investigator, as a former HUD person, I've been in this game for a while. So I do have some questions like, why is this much cost, and why is this taking so long, and why is it this spread out? That's just me personally. I can be totally wrong. I can go in there, and Amy can tell me, and Sarah can tell me something totally different. Just looking at it with my eyes, that's all.
No, I'm very grateful that you're here doing that because obviously it really needed done. But I guess one of my hesitations is allocating money right now when we don't even really know when phase 5 is going to start or if it's even going to be this year, because if it's not going to be this year, then allocating those funds when it could be going to something that actually will for sure use them this year, that's I guess where my hesitation is.
And I understand that. I understand what they're saying as well. I am not in disagreement of what you're saying and why. I understand that. I think where the sting comes for me is the fact that, I'm not given the chance, and I understand why. I'm new on the block, but yet I'm being judged based on lack of performance on another level. And judge is a strong word, but you understand what I'm saying.
No, I understand what you're saying, but whatever decision I make tonight has nothing to do with you, because I fully think that you are going to do a good job just from meeting you, so.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So I know I'm not taking this personally. I want everybody to know that. They're doing their job, and they're speaking, hey, I agree, the facts speak for themselves. Amy and I have had many conversations. The board and I have had many conversations. Facts speak for themselves. But again, you know, at the end of the day, I do have a housing authority to run, and I have residents who are in need of things.
So I guess if you don't get this funding, and if you didn't get this funding, worst case scenario is you just wouldn't be able to start phase 5 until potentially next year when you got the funding. Is that correct?
Or unless I found some more money.
Unless you found, yes.
And next year, maybe I'd be asking for something else with the money.
And yeah, perfect. Yep, all right.
Always reapply next year as
Yeah,
well, so.
okay. Okay, thank you very much, and
You're
thank you.
welcome. You're welcome.
Councilmember Felker?
This is a question for staff. So tell me more about what the timeliness test entails. Help me understand. Is it a hard and fast time frame, or is it?
Our timeliness test is May 2nd, and we have to spend
Can we have the overhead, please?
that might help. So it basically HUD sums up the amount of funds remaining in our line of credit and divides by the amount of the annual grant award. If that ratio is less than or equal to 1.5, then the grantee has met their timeliness requirement. So as of today, we have $459,775 in our line of credit. $283,000 of that is committed to Housing Authority. So that is at 1.3. So right now, we will still pass our test on May 2nd, since it's less than the 1.5.
So as you, I think you said this at the very beginning, it's in May of each
Yes,
year that this
May.
calculation has to be run, and we have to meet the bar, or our line of credit goes away, or is that?
Can, and I ran this today, and we're passing as of today, and we're not gonna get any more money allocated to us until the new program year begins. So we will for sure pass this test in May, but if we don't get this money spent with the Housing Authority down, because they receive the bulk of our money, if we don't get that spent down, we may not pass next year.
And spent down, meaning phase 3?
We need to get phase 3.
Phase 3 done.
And then phase 4. Need to get through that as well.
Because the line of credit is what we've approved to be paid out to these organizations.
Yes.
That's the top line. And the number below is just the really the annual amount.
Annual amount, annual award from HUD.
We have to spend through that. Okay, now I think this is making sense to me. Okay, and we're getting close. So if we approved more, and the concern perhaps that you're transmitting to us is if phase 3 doesn't get reimbursed, and so all the work that leads up to that, the concern is that we might bump up to or be over the 1.5. That's the concern. That's when we would trigger the removal of funds, or the decrease in the line of credit. Is that what happened?
Yep. HUD will initiate a workout plan, and we have to really put a plan together, like the strategy as to how we're going to spend our balances down, which usually is, terminating contracts.
Okay. Have we ever had to do that before?
We've not had to do that, no.
Like at all? Yeah,
We've never had to do that.
okay.
We've never not passed a timeliness test, from what I'm aware.
Dickerson's kind of answered my other question. I was just thinking about, as you think about phase 5, and I'm just going to kind of restate it, but Ms. Dickerson, you said that your aim still would be to try to bring that improvement, if you could, to Duncan Estates, even if the funding today wasn't set aside for the project. And so can you just affirm that you still want to find ways to fund these projects one way or the other?
Exactly. I'm very concerned with, as I said, until I can take a deep dive in what was actually spent, why did it take so long? What was the work pace and the amount of money, and why more units wasn't done? And I plan to devote some time to really, as some of you know, I've been all over the place on a couple of things, but I do plan to look into that. Yes, I do find some money to start, at least try and finish the project.
Let me ask staff now a question. So let's just say phase 3 gets reimbursed, done. We've already approved phase 4. That's in the already in the works, and that would permit you all. You'd be in a position to say, okay, we can sign the contract now for that to begin. There's no reason, Ms. Dickerson, for you to begin working on phase 4 before you sign the contract, because the way this works, if I understand, is Housing Authority goes out and spends the money.
Yes.
But I think I'm hearing that
We've already spent the money for phase 3. We're just trying to get reimbursed for the money we spent. Yes, there is one or two things that need to be cleared up, which I have no doubt that they'll be cleared up maybe tomorrow, at least for sure by next week. So I have no doubt that the CDBG reimbursement will not be completed within the next, I don't know when you guys will get us a check for the money we've already spent, but it will be cleared up.
But to help us understand, when it comes to the CDBG reimbursement, if in this case, the Housing Authority were to start a project, sign a contract before, are they permitted to later come back and say, well, meaning, can they later come back and say, well, we already started it? Are you following me? So,
so are you saying if they had already started phase 4 without a contract?
yes, let's say they came today and say, hey, we've already got a project underway. We're doing 10 units and we've done 3. We'd love to have reimbursement for all 10. We've already done 3.
Without a contract being signed, the city, we wouldn't have to pay them.
Yeah, the city would not be obligated.
I guess the question is, could we then sit here and talk about that project and say, you know what? Hey, that's a great project. They're already, working hard, extending themselves on such and such. We want to approve that as a body, and then the city goes ahead and says, keep it up, and when you're done, sign a contract now that we're going to reimburse you after you're done, even though you've already started.
I guess technically you could, but we'd have to go and basically be doing a whole reimbursement request or looking at the same documentation, because we'd have to check wage orders and make sure that that was decided on per them signing into a contract with likely TaylorMade. And they'd have to bid the project, put it in minority papers, things of that nature. So there's a whole procurement.
You do work in advance of the organization actually signing the contract itself, like with its vendors. You mentioned TaylorMade. So before they sign on with TaylorMade or whoever is the vendors they work with, you're actually doing some of the legwork in advance to kind of review what's in those contracts, or you're reviewing it after the fact?
I'm saying we'd have to if we tried to take that approach.
Okay.
But we don't normally do that. But we are in touch with them throughout the process to make sure that they are following federal requirements throughout the way.
And again, although I'm an executive director now, I took an oath as a HUD employee, so I have to carry that with me for the rest of my life. So what Amy's saying is true, but I would not procure or do a contract without making sure that it meets all the requirements, because say that this money was not on the table. Say that everything was allocated and we got a little share of it, but we were able to meet more units. And I find out, hey, there's an extra $50,000 that was left over and we did extra units. Then I would want to come and ask the city for that money. So therefore, I need to make sure that whatever I did on this side, not knowing that money was there, though it matches. But one of the things I did at HUD was look at stuff like this to come through. I had to approve the drawdowns for constructions and all of that. That was one of my jobs. So I understand fully what Amy is asking. I understand fully what you're stating. And all of you make sense. You all are correct. Again, you know, whatever decision you make, I will respect it and I understand it. Don't think that for a minute. But just know I can't sit to 2025 like, hopefully I get some money next year because I'm going to do this. I'm going to continue to look for money. Then if I have to reapply next year for something else, I may not be here for siding. I may be here for something else.
Let me ask one more question of Sarah and Amy. When it comes to, I think what you said earlier was that, let's say we get phase 3 done, right? Reimbursed. So your 1.5 calculation, we're in a better, safer territory. But approving phase 4 and phase 5 at the same time would up that, again, top line number and put you in a position where you might not. You'd have to, next May, you'd have to make sure it gets spent down by that time.
I think it's very unlikely we could get all of that spent down by next May.
That would entail phase 4 and phase 5. You'd have to fund up front phase 4 and phase 5, right? Well,
Correct.
I say right now, meaning this summer, you know, sometime in the, whenever,
We
spring,
would have
whenever.
to fund both phase 4 and phase 5, and we would have to make sure that we're managing the project. You know, there's a big difference in getting awarded money and putting it in somebody else's hands to do, and just taking what they give you. That's what seems to appear what happened in history. You have to manage the project. There's deadlines, there's timelines. Where are the meetings? Where's the communication? Where are the emails? Where's all of that? So manage the project is what you have to do to make sure you're coming in under deadline. I don't like to come in at deadline. I like to come in under deadline.
So I think where I'm going with this is if, and kind of tying back to some things Councilmember Pryor was saying, if we funded phase 4 and phase 5 right now, you'd have to front load it. It would put us in a precarious situation to where you're concerned that the work wouldn't get done fast enough to where we have more risk on the table of next May, because it would be next May, I think, when that number would come up again and we'd have to say, do we meet the 1.5 or less?
Need to back up because the funding for phase 5 won't actually be available until at least the earliest would be July. So
This
they
July?
couldn't, yes, so they couldn't, because this is funding for a new program year that we're talking about right now.
Got it.
So
Okay.
they couldn't enter into a contract and try to do phase 4 and
'Cause that's when
phase
the
5 and start now.
That's when the federal government says, here's the money.
Yes.
Okay. We put that on the loudspeaker.
We needed that.
Okay, and then I think maybe where Councilmember Pryor, and I'm sorry, I can't speak for you, but I think maybe the thought here is that we may not be in a position to fund it now, and coming back next year, because phase 4 would have to get underway, the funds, if there was a phase 5 set of funds, wouldn't be able to hit till July, which might, again, make it challenging to complete. So why not say, if phase 5 is still around next year, we're a friendly body to your organization, we believe in what the Housing Authority is, then perhaps that's the right time to fund it. Or you've figured out phase 5 on your own, and you've got Lee Haven phase 1 to present to us. I mean, that's, I think, maybe where you're coming, well, I can't say, that may be what you're thinking. Like, we still appreciate everything the Housing Authority's doing, but not because of anything that Ms. Dickerson's done, but because of the situation she's inherited. We're kind of finding ourselves in a situation where it may be difficult to do this. That's your analysis, if I'm hearing it correctly.
Yes. I mean, the timeliness test isn't the only concern. And we do want to continue working with the Housing Authority, and we just thought that with the issues that Ms. Dickerson has inherited, that, you know, if we gave her a year to catch everything back up, I mean, and get it all back on track, then yes, next year it could come back with phase 5 or something else.
Okay, I think I'm at least out of questions for now. Thank
So
you.
if I hobble back up there, you're not gonna call me back
No,
down?
wait, just wait. I don't wait.
If you're going to
Yeah,
take a seat,
just sit in the front
just
row.
stay right there,
But I,
because we
Ms.
probably will have
Dickerson,
more questions.
I'm not going to ask you a question, but yeah, I just want to follow up with that. I don't think there's anybody on this body who holds you responsible for anything
I
that's
know.
happened previous to you coming here. And in fact, I have been a council liaison to the Housing Authority Board. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think I was there for 2 years. Councilmember Felker has been, and in the past 4 or 5 years, I think the city has really repaired relationships between the city and the Housing Authority, and we've really improved relationships. So I just want you to know that you're really not walking into an unfriendly body. We have high hopes for you. So and we wish you all the best. But I think what I'm hearing from the committee members and staff, we may just take a pause on this for this year because we don't want to put everybody else's money at risk. Is that what I'm hearing from both of you? Seems like it. Yeah, okay.
And that is very understandable, and I do know it's not to me, it's, you know, what I walked into, but the day I took the job, I didn't know it was gonna be like this, but hey, hey, a new challenge.
Well,
But-
and you know, it's federal government and
Yeah.
city government, and you know.
I understand, and I understand their position, I really do. But again, I do thank all of you for listening. I thank you for your questions and your comments. But, you know, just know I still can't just sit on the sideline. So
Oh, and we don't
I'll be
expect you
begging
to.
for something else next year.
No, that's
God
perfect.
bless and say the
That's
same.
perfectly fine. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
I'm gonna let you off the hook. Sit down. All right. So since we have kind of covered construction with Duncan Estates and Sherman Heritage, are the committee members fine with leaving those amounts? Oh, that's it. Mr. Elam, I kind of lost track since we're in a public hearing. Since we're going to discuss the amounts, do I need to stay in the public hearing or get out?
I think if you're done asking questions and you're just moving on to discussion, you can close the public hearing and move on to discussion and recommendation.
Do I need to ask if there are any one who wants to speak in favor or against?
Yes.
Yes, I do. We'll get to that in a minute. Is there anyone who would, anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this application, please come forward. Anyone who wishes to speak against this application? All right, then I will close the public hearing and open the regular session. Comments from the committee members?
Chair?
Councilmember Felker.
My knee. So I appreciate, thank you, staff, for all of the work on this. And thank you also, appreciate all the presenters who have presented today. And I don't have a reason to express anything contrary to the recommendations. Obviously, we've just vetted a whole series of questions, and it's kind of a challenging thing to have this conversation about the housing authority, but I think it's actually was a good kind of helping. It probably helped us understand some things a little better, frankly, and helps create an understanding of both how the process works. Unfortunately, again, I certainly have said somewhat akin to what you just, or would say akin to what you just said, Chair, that this is certainly not a vote of, or a lack of faith in the housing authority as much as I think just a statement about our current circumstances and how can we move forward in a judicious way with funds that are allotted to us under certain guidelines and rules and standards. And so I look forward to, no, actually I don't look forward to seeing this again next year, but I look forward to hearing about this next year when the housing authority has the opportunity to come back again.
Thank you. Councilmember Pryor?
I had to move down here because Phyllis was driving me crazy. No, I'm joking. My screen went black, so I moved down here. But no, I don't really have any additional comments except that I agree with the staff recommendation.
All right, so far 2 out of 3. No, I appreciate staff's work on this too. I'm glad that you all went ahead and left the program administration at 0, and the city will make that as part of our general fund. I'm glad that you just did that. That's great. I don't have any comments either. So I would recommend we move that forward. And we wish only the best for the Housing Authority and can't wait to see what you do. I think I need a motion. Are there any last minute comments from staff? Okay.
Chair.
Councilmember Felker.
I move that our committee recommend that the City Council approve the attached 2024-25 annual action plan by ordinance with necessary funding distribution adjustments when HUD formally announces the grant amount.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Felker, a second by Councilmember Pryor to move the Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan to council for approval. Can I have a roll call, please?
Chair Edson?
Aye.
Vice Chair Pryor?
Aye.
Councilmember Felker?
Aye.
Thank you so much. I will say this is probably one of my favorite meetings of the entire year. I love this meeting. I'm sure staff is ready for it to be done. Roundtable, council members, anything?
I'd really just have one thing for roundtable, and it actually goes back to our public comment. So it's helpful. One of our public commenters, Dale Coy, just mentioned that he might have an issue he brings up and then gets an automated response, and his concern was, I don't get anything other feedback until I make a phone call. So this isn't call anyone out as much as just to bring it, since he wanted to make it a public comment. I think it's helpful just to say, I'm sure that's not everybody's experience, but there may be some attention to give to him or to requests that he might make. So I don't know what the process is when someone makes I think, where's the, sorry, I have it on the screen, but I'll lose it now. Meaning he's reported in this case, a code violation, certain sign in a right of way, and then a neighborhood service officer's going to perform an inspection within so many business days, and then the time frame he's told passes without any reply, and so his concern was, I feel like I should get more of a response. So I don't know if there is a concern there, if his is the only experience that he doesn't get a response, or so I don't know.
So it shouldn't be. What goes on with C-Click Fix is that comes into the system to development services, and then we process it and put it into our kind of normal accounting system for that, if you will. An officer goes out and performs an inspection to see if there's a violation or not. And with that, they'll open a case if there is a violation. Now, it sounds like what he's saying is he's not getting that back channel communication to him to say there's a violation.
We've resolved it, or maybe that's part of what he's thinking about. And it's probably, if I'm a citizen, I've said, hey, I see this problem. Like maybe that citizen, should they be part of the ticket or not? I don't know if that makes sense. If that would make sense to do it that way, but
If they don't want to remain anonymous, they should be listed as the not complainer, but the originator of the case there.
Sure. Yeah.
So I would have to dig into the specific instance he's talking about, but if they're not wanting to be listed as anonymous, they wouldn't be.
I guess that's a good point. Someone who may want to get feedback might lose anonymity. So anyway, I appreciate Mr. Johnson. Thank you. Again, my point isn't necessarily to call anyone out, but just he raises a complaint, and maybe there's a part of the procedure that could be a little different.
Yeah, I'll send that to you, Josh. I'll send you the email.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? I'd just like to commend all the nonprofits for sticking around. Usually people get done with us and they leave, and they're all still here. They do know they're not getting their checks today, right?
We've got the big ones in the back.
The big check. One last roundtable item. I talked to staff about our April meeting, and we have a couple of presentations and no ordinances coming forward. So if you all don't mind, Councilmember Felker, since you and I won't be on the next CEDC committee, I was going to cancel the April meeting if that's all right with you all. Are you all okay with that? Because I'll have to give the presentation again later to the new committee.
I'm okay with it, but that's a little sad. I'm gonna miss you guys.
Not gone yet.
Staff?
The only roundtable item I have is to say thank you to both of you, Chair Edson and Councilmember Felker, for serving on this committee over the last year, seeing as how this is the last, officially now since you're canceling the April meeting, your last CEDC meeting, and just wanted to appreciate all the work and effort that you all have put into the committee. You too as well, Councilmember Pryor, but you're still here.
Thank you.
Councilmember Edson, I really appreciate you and what you've done with this committee. I appreciate you furthering the attainable housing goals. That's a passion of mine as well. Councilmember Felger, I'm a numbers guy too. That's all I'll say. And thank you for your service, both of you.
Thank you. I feel like we've made a lot of progress on this committee. We didn't get quite as far as I wanted to, but we got a lot done this year. And, you know, if the mayor pro tem hadn't kept throwing things at us, we would have gotten further along. All right. And so I will adjourn this meeting at 6:35. Is the clock right? I can't tell. All right. Thank you.